At a time when crime is up in nearly every major city, St. Paul, Minnesota is seeing a positive trend. Car thefts there have actually plummeted. They're down nearly 40% over last year, according to some new data from the Council on Criminal Justice, which looked at 34 U.S. cities nationwide. Car thefts were up 30% last year. So what is St. Paul doing differently? Let's talk to the St. Paul Police Chief, Axel Henry. Sir, well done. What's the secret been?
Well, I think if I had to point to one thing, would be the fact that we have employees that are extremely talented and very good at their jobs. And you add on top of that that they care. So they're really focused on this. They take all these crimes in our city extremely personally, and they want to bring solutions. I think if you were going to broaden that out, we kind of have a three-tiered approach. Everything's about prevention, intervention, and enforcement. Prevention is obviously the gold medal. You'd much rather prefer your car never got stolen in the first place as opposed to us catching the person who did it. And so we really focus on educating our community about how to make that more difficult or to prevent those thefts in the first place. Then we're also intervening with young folks and people that steal these cars to explain to them why that's not a good path to take in their life. And then we're getting a lot of bronze medals. We're doing a lot of enforcement, making a lot of arrests, and we've seen some good results. I'll be clear, we're never going to end zone dance on these numbers. We constantly watch them to make sure that they'll work and make sure that our techniques are the best ones for the current situations. But I can say that I'm happy with the trend and the way it's going.
I mean, so often we have folks on to talk about crime on the rise and situations that are out of control. I'm thrilled to see this happening and want to present it as a success story that others can learn from. So let's take this twofold. First of all, prevention. What has been your message to members of your community to be part of the solution to prevent becoming a target?
Well, one of those things that's very easy is, I mean, of course, we've seen a huge rise in Kia and Hyundai thefts with the issues that are around social media. A lot of kids were out there stealing cars. And so educating our community about those risks and then working with the auto manufacturers to make sure that those cars are more hardened targets. We're very active. We are obviously in St. Paul, so we have traditionally very harsh winters. Last year was an extremely snowy winter, and so folks will let their cars run to heat up. Very understandable. We go out and actually do traffic stops on parked cars that are running to get out and educate our community that you may not know this, but your car can drive off while it's running if you don't have one of these ignition defeating systems from a remote start. And so it happens at a multitude of levels where we go out and work with community to make sure that they understand how they can play a key role. And that's really what happens. It's not a police community issue. It's a community issue, and we're a part of that.
The other element is the intervention that you talked about. I understand Ramsey County, the only county in Minnesota that has gotten grant money from the State Department of Commerce, specifically for auto theft youth intervention. So you're out there talking to youth. What's the message?
Yeah, we're having conversations. I mean, I think, people think about the 50s and 60s, you used to hear about these, people would do joyriding. And nowadays, stealing a car, taking it, driving around for 5 or 10 blocks, parking it close to the school, going to school, or driving around and having fun in it. I don't think our young kids don't really understand that that's a felony level crime. And you're putting the community at risk, particularly if you're getting into a high-speed pursuit or you're driving in a reckless manner. And so we're having conversations with them and bringing in community members to say, listen, you may have thought this was kind of a funny thing to do, but that family over there now couldn't take their kids to their sporting event or couldn't get to the grocery store. And you may not have intended those to be the consequences of your actions, but they really have much more serious actions. And it's also a very small percentage of our community that's committing about 80% of these crimes. And so with the data that we gather and the focused enforcement that we do, we're able to reach a lot of those folks in a lot better way.
Yeah, well, you're seeing success. I'm curious, are you seeing rates of other crimes go down as a result of this kind of three-tiered approach?
We are. As a matter of fact, we've seen a huge drop in our shots fired calls, our gun violence calls. We had 75 less people get shot in our city last year. But again, that's where I say we never end zone dance on those because whether it's shootings or whether it's auto thefts, even if we got it down to one, that's still one family or person that's been shot or lost their car. And so our job is just continue to keep trying and keep reassessing what we do to make sure that we're providing the very best service with our community, for our community, and in our community.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.